That was Of Buttons and Levers by Arcos Angels here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and believe it or not, welcome-ish to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which tries its best to air every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. Unfortunately, we're having ourselves a little bit of a late start because our station manager appears to have vanished into the ether. So, yeah, I couldn't get into the station for a little bit. I don't know if that's my fault for getting here about 5 minutes before the show or what, but either way, I'm here. I don't know where the station manager went, but I'm here, and we're going to do the show. I'm getting everything booted up, trying to get you all your game release list and what anime are in theaters and all of the other important things that we do here on GameBabble Live, because we like to kick the show off with what the new game releases are for this week, what's coming out next week, and what anime are in theaters. That usually happens because I get here before the show, not 20 minutes after the show was supposed to start. So, to anyone tuning in, who tuned in earlier and was like, what the heck, where's the show? My deepest apologies. Technical difficulties of a sort prevented us from starting on time. But don't worry, because we are posting all the shows online. Just go to YouTube, search up GameBabble Live Archive, and you will slam face first into at least one of over 60 episodes of GameBabble Live. I will be getting this up as soon as I possibly can, and hopefully that should do the trick, give you something to listen to. I actually bumped into a random fan online who said they enjoyed listening to the show in the background while they were doing work, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. In case you... I appreciate every fan, every listener I get, because I don't exactly have a lot of them. But I like to pretend I do. Anyway, so I'm gonna go try to get these lists and stuff all called up, ready to go. Get the anime and theaters list up and all of that good stuff. As fast as I can. So, more than likely, what it'll be is after the 12:30 break, we will return and kick the show off properly. But until then, I guess that does mean it is time to kick you back to the music. So, I guess here is One-Eyed Monster by Jeremiah Johnson Band here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for the proper start of GameBabble Live after this short break. My apologies again. Thanks for listening. Please enjoy the music. That was I Hope You Wake Up by B-Scan here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind, and I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which tries to air every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m., but sometimes technical difficulties get in the way. Anyway, it's time to actually start the show, and we love to start the show off with the new game releases for this week, what's coming out next week, and what anime are in theaters. So, kicking things off, PlayStation 4, what you got? PlayStation 4 this week is getting the Rocket League Hot Wheels Triple Threat DLC pack, with a game called Toon War. Also, Creed Rise to Glory, which is a boxing game based on the Rocky spin-off, where you get to box in VR, and it looks amazing, and I can't wait to play it. Also, Crypt Track, Dakar 18, Deployment, FIFA 19 Champions Edition, Friday the 13th, The Game Ultimate Slasher Edition, Hollow Knight Void Heart Edition, Jack and Jill DX, Metal Max Xeno, Penguin Coon Wars is supposed to finally have its digital release now, Pitter Pot, Punchline, Revenant Dogma, The Cat in the Coop, The Council Episode 4 Burning Bridges, The Grand Museum VR. hear about that one. The Walking Dead, the Telltale series, the final season, episode 2, Suffer the Children, which, as you may or may not have heard, Telltale is officially bankrupt. We'll talk about that later on. So, yeah, that's a thing. Think of the Children. This is the Police 2. Time Spinner. Valkyria Chronicles 4, along with 3 different DLC sets. A Captainless Squad. A United Front with Squad 7 and Eddie's Advance Ops. Then tomorrow we've got Air Missions Hind. Dark Eclipse, which I know is a VR MOBA, so like League of Legends, but in VR, and made by Sunsoft. Very intrigued by this. I hear it's not very good, but I still want to give it a chance, and it's free to play anyway. Life is Strange 2, and The Crew 2 Gator Rush. And then, oh wow, on the 27th, so Thursday, Dragon Ball FighterZ is getting both Android 17 and Cooler. Life is Strange 2 Episode 1 comes out. Perception Remastered and Pilot Sports. And then Friday, Catastronauts, FIFA 19, and a game called Freaky Awesome. Xbox One, what have you got? The Xbox One has Rocket League Hot Wheels Triple Threat DLC Pack, Dakar 18, FIFA 19 Ultimate Edition, Friday the 13th, The Game Ultimate Slasher Collector's Edition, Hollow Knight Void Heart Edition, The Walking Dead, the Telltale series, the final season, Episode 2, Suffer the Children. I am going to miss these absurdly long titles. This is the Police 2, Valkyria Chronicles 4, along with its 3 DLC packs, a Captainless Squad, a United Front with Squad 7, and Eddie's Advance Ops, along with a game called Warface, and then tomorrow, Jack and Jill DX, Pillar by Michael Hicks and Goncalo Antunes. Okay. Pizza Titan Ultra. The Crew 2 Gator Rush, Think of the Children, Vegas Party. 27th, we get Dragon Ball FighterZ, Android 17, and Cooler, and Life is Strange 2, Episode 1. And on the 28th, Amnesia Collection, Catastronauts, Deadliners, FIFA 19, and Forza Horizon 4. Forza Horizon 4 Ultimate Edition. Switch, what have you got? Well, the Switch has Gao Cow Love 100 Days, Rocket League Hot Wheels Triple Threat DLC Pack, A Gummy's Life, Arena of Valor, which if I remember, that's like a Chinese mobile MOBA that is ported to Switch. Anyway, let's see, where were we? Arena of Valor, FIFA 19 Champions Edition, Gianna Sisters Twisted Dreams Ultimate Edition, Oh My Godheads Party Edition, South Park The Stick of Truth, The Escapists Complete Edition. So many editions! The Walking Dead, the Telltale series, the final season, Episode 2, Suffer the Children, Think of the Children, This is the Police 2, Ultimate Chicken Horse, Valkyria Chronicles 4, and its 3 DLC packs, a Captainless Squad, a United Front with Squad 7, and Eddie's Advance Ops. And then, let's see, Snake vs. Snake, and then Alwa's Awakening, Armello, which is a very nice, like, kind of super complex board game RPG thing. Would be a really nice fit for the Switch. X-Order, More Wanted? Okay. More Wanted. Sure, why not? Rise and Shine, Rooms, The Adventure of Anne and George, Towerfall, Wandersong, Whispering Willows, and on the 28th, Demon's Crystals, Dragon Ball FighterZ, FIFA 19, Golf Story, Jack and Jill DX, Namco Museum Arcade Pack, Splatoon 2 Starter Pack, Super Mario Odyssey Starter Pack, and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Starter Pack. So, bundles with the Switch. Oh, does that count as this week, or that would be Saturday? Huh, that's a weird time. Marble It Up comes out Saturday, followed by Monster Loves You on Sunday. Okay, whatever you say. Moving on. Actually, now I'm really confused. It's getting a U.S. Oh, I'm going to have to look into that. Anyway, 3DS, what are you getting? Yokai Watch Blasters, Moon Rabbit Crew, and Jake Hunter Detective Story, Ghost of the Dusk. And PlayStation Vita, you are getting Jack and Jill DX, Punchline, Revenant Dogma, and Time Spinner. That wraps up this week. let's move along to next week. Next week, let's see, the PlayStation 4 is getting Assassin's Creed Odyssey Spartan Edition Astrobot Rescue Mission, which is a full version of the game Robo Rescue for the PlayStation VR. It's a third-person platformer, but in VR. And you might say, wow, that sounds really pointless until you actually try it, and it's freaking amazing because you're remote controlling this little robot and platforming around it. It's really promising. Anyway, Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, which is literally Fist of the North Star, but Yakuza. Mega Man 11, The Surge, The Good, the Bad, and the Augmented. And Valkyrian Arc Hero School Story. That sounds like something up my alley. Following that, we have The Midnight Sanctuary, and then Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and WWE 2K19 Collector's Edition is scheduled for next Friday, and then, of course, release the full edition the following week, or the edition for normal people. Anyway, actually, yeah, I think I remember looking up this Valkyrian Arc Hero School Story. It's also coming to Switch and PC. Yeah, I think I talked about this on the show. This actually looked really promising. You ran a hero school and you also went to... I think I might be getting that. Moving on. Xbox One next week is getting Assassin's Creed Odyssey Pantheon Edition, Forza Horizon 4, Mega Man 11, The Surge, The Good, the Bad, and the Augmented, Assassin's Creed Odyssey Non-Pantheon Edition, WWE 2K19 Collector's Edition. So many editions, this is stupid. We're taking a break here just to mention this. This just gums up my list so preposterously. Because what keeps happening is, like, it's the new shtick where it's like, if you spend a ludicrous amount of money to buy the collector's edition, you can get it a couple days early compared to the regular edition. This keeps happening. This is like the trend of the year. It's like, the game's done, you're shipping it all out at the same time. I know, they really want people to buy the collector's edition, and they're preying on the fact that some people have absolutely zero patience. So whatever. Actually, I'm wondering if that might backfire on them. Because I know for WWE 2K19, I'm always iffy on it. I only pick those games up for the character creator. So if the character creator looks like a step backwards, like it was for 2K17, then I'm not going to buy it. Because I skipped 2K17. I picked up 2K18 and 2K16, but 17, no. So hopefully for them, their character creator better be on point, because I will be watching streams and looking for YouTube videos of that, because that's what matters to me. Moving right along. Xbox One, where were we? Assassin's Creed, WWE. Okay, and then the rest of that stuff would be the week after that. Nintendo Switch, what you got for us? Well, Nintendo Switch is getting Batman the Enemy Within the Telltale series, Candle, The Power of the Flame, Mega Man 11, and Valkyrian Arc, Hero School Story. Following that, Animated Jigsaw's Japanese Women, Jetomero, Hero of the Universe, Nefarious, Party Crashers, Pilot Sports, The Midnight Sanctuary, Vertical Drop Heroes HD, and on the 5th, Super Mario Party, the new Mario Party game. Yay! After that, nothing on 3DS and nothing on Vita. So that wraps up the new games for this week and next week. As for anime in theaters, we've got My Hero Academia 2 Heroes starting today. It will be dubbed. Tomorrow, the 26th, it will be subbed. Then on the 27th, you can catch it dubbed again. 29th, it will be dubbed again. And October 2nd, subbed. And My Neighbor Totoro will be in theaters September 30th, dubbed, October 1st, subbed, and October 3rd, dubbed. Whew! So that wraps up our new game releases for this week and next week, what anime are in theaters, and so on. And I need to search something here, because this has raised all of the eyebrows. What is this? Is this in English? Oh, it's not well translated English. Okay. So I mentioned on the list that there was a game coming out called Gao Kao Love 100 Days for the Nintendo Switch. And I looked at it and I'm like, that is a very Japanese-looking dating sim thing there. So I was very surprised. I was like, is that coming to the U.S. store? And sure enough, it is. Apparently, it's been on Steam for a hot minute. Actually, I don't know if it's Japanese in origin. Looking at these, this might be Chinese. Let's see. Introduction, getting a girlfriend before Gaokao National College entrance exam. I know it's crazy, but from today, we will face everything together. Is there still room for love in this 100 days, or am I just ruining my life, or worse, her life? Okay, it is Chinese. This is a dating simulation game based on Chinese students' real life. You can have romantic relationships with classmates, but remember that you have just 100 days while preparing for Gaokao. Interesting. And yeah, it is very roughly translated if it's anything like the Steam version. Just not the kind of game I expected to appear on Switch, despite the fact that I know about some other very interesting Switch games that have made it to America. I am curious about that, especially the bad translation. Nothing quite sells me on a text-heavy game like a ridiculous translation. Yeah, Valtherian Arc Hero School Story. Yeah, this is that game. I talked about it earlier. You run a hero school, and you get to also take control of the students and send them out on quests to fight monsters and things. Like, the graphic style is a little bit cel-shaded, very simplistic, certainly not anything that would really push a computer to its limit, or a Switch, or even a cell phone, but it's stylized nicely, so it's not ugly at all. And this looks like a game I should play. I think I might be picking this up on Switch. This looks like it could be a good time. So I do believe that sums up that should cover our new game releases and the new anime in theaters. So I will kick you back to the music for a little bit before we get on with the show proper. We have some interesting things to talk about. Things have been a little busy, so I haven't been able to prepare quite as big a list as usual, but I will search things up and keep you all posted. Until then, here is Remains by Broski, here on 89.5 FM KCFV, the Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much. That was I'm a Mess by Bebe Rexha here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live. So, before the break, we of course did the new game releases for this week, what's coming out next week, and what anime are in theaters. Hooray! My Hero Academia, the movie. Very excited about that. So, moving right along to game news. This one amuses me. So, the other week, let's start from the top. Sega has hired M2 to do Sega Ages remakes of classic, well, not remakes, but Sega Ages ports of classic Sega games to the Nintendo Switch with new features and really nice emulation and so on. I know a lot of people are kind of steamed about it because they're looking at it and they're like, these are way too expensive for what they are. I'd never pay this price. But you have to understand that these are M2 ports. M2 does a premium job. It is absolutely not like that Sonic Genesis collection thing, which is also coming to Switch now, where it's like, oh, Sega threw together an emulator and they throw some Genesis ROMs in it and it's just fine. No, the fine folks at M2 go the extra mile. They make sure they get the game perfect. And then they add more features, like Thunder Force 4 has an easy mode that I guess was in the Saturn version that they recreated, even though this is a port of the original Genesis version. And it has both English and Japanese versions of the game. It has online high scoreboards. And then they also added in a feature to overclock the emulated system, so effectively you can turn off slowdown. If you wanted to play Thunder Force 4 that way, you could do it. And yeah, so those are the kind of features they add. Sonic 1, they added the Sonic Mania drop dash to it. Optionally, they go the extra mile with their ports, and that's why they wind up costing a bit of money. It's not just a collection of these games. They do a good job. Which anyone who's been following that Genesis collection knows is something we really need, especially on Genesis games, because it's so hard to get the music right, or the sound right on Genesis games. It's hard to emulate the sound. There's almost no emulator out there that does it right. I'm going to assume that these people do get it right. But anyway, I don't have enough of an ear for the Sega Genesis sound chip to know when they're really getting it wrong, but hopefully, I would assume these people are getting it right, because M2 has done a lot of good stuff. I bring this up a lot, but one of the most amazing things they did was they did a collection on PS2 of Fantasy Zone games. And Fantasy Zone 1 was released in arcades. It was, a System 16. It was on System 16 hardware. Fantasy Zone 2, though, was only on Sega Master System, but people always wondered, what would it be like if that was actually an arcade game? And M2 actually went ahead and did that, and they did a remake of Fantasy Zone 2 in this collection that shows you what it would be like if there had been an arcade version of Fantasy Zone 2. And it's like, well, that's nice and all, but, could the System 16 really handle these kind of graphics? And the answer was yes, because M2 was crazy enough to actually build the game on the original System 16 arcade hardware. They did give it a limited promotional arcade release running on the old System 16 arcade hardware. And that's what they're emulating on the PS2 Fantasy Zone collection. Now, that was only in Japan, but if you want to play that game, if that sounds tantalizing to you, they later ported it to the 3DS in 3D, and they added in a amazing score attack mode called Link Loopland. I highly recommend the 3DS version of Fantasy Zone 2, of their remake of Fantasy Zone 2. It's fantastic. M2 did all of those 3D ports of Sega games on the 3DS, by the way. They do good work. Anyway, so Sega was like, well, what games do the fans want? And so they opened up a Twitter poll where it's like, all right, just write in whatever game you want us to port. And we'll see what we can do about it. And guess what won? Coming in first place was the Jet Set Radio series. No joke, Jet Set Radio made first place. And this is kind of mind-blowing, because of course Jet Set Radio never did that well. In fact, Sega even said they must have gotten every Jet Set Radio fan in the world writing in, and they're going to see what they can do, but they're a little on the fence. And I'm just laughing because it's like, Sega, you gotta hear this demand. Because it's pretty obvious. I mean, number one, Hover just came out, which Hover was an indie game that's been in development for eons and is basically a fan-made Jet Set Radio that had been in development. I want to say it's been almost 5 years that Hover has been in development. I remember its original title was Hover Revolt of Gamers because the developers themselves saw it as their own revolt because they weren't getting a new Jet Set Radio. And then we have, of course, the new Lethal League, which not only has a character flagrantly designed after Jet Set Radio, but they actually got the Jet Set Radio composer to do music for it. And now it's made first place on the games people are demanding a port of. Following that, in second place is Shenmue 1 and 2, and that one was really weird, because it's like, what the heck, but Shenmue 1 and 2 literally just got re-released. Well, come to find out, the Shenmue 1 and 2 release was handled by Sega of Europe. It's only PS4 and I think maybe Xbox One and PC? I need to double check that, but yeah, the Shenmue re-release was from Sega of Europe. Apparently, I guess they didn't release the Shenmue HD port re-release thing in Japan, and they really want it, and they want it on Switch. So that's why that made second. Third is Panzer Dragoon Saga. Thank you. That was the one I voted for, even though I later realized I should have said Planet Harriers. Panzer Dragoon Saga comes in third. Fourth place is the Virtua Fighter series. Fifth place is the Shining series, Shining Force, and the like, which that makes sense. Sixth place is the rest of the Panzer Dragoon series, which that's good. We do need Panzer Dragoon's Way ported to freaking anything. Following that, the Sakura Wars series, then the Puyo Puyo series, which, I guess Puyo Puyon hasn't been ported to friggin' anything, and Switch port of Puyo Puyo Sun would be good. See, the thing is, Puyo Puyo 2 gets ported to everything, so I thought that was kind of pointless. Following that, the Virtualon series, then Burning Ranger, then Skies of Arcadia, then Nights into Dreams, then the Golden Axe series, then Mushi King, the King of Beetles series, then Phantasy Star Online, Space Channel 5 series, Outrunners, good call there, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, Daytona USA series, Spike Out series, which if you include Slash Out, I would be interested. Following Spike Out is the Dynamite Cop / Die Hard Arcade series, then Sonic 3 and Knuckles, then Virtua Racing, the Fantasy Zone series, the Dragon Force series, the Sega Rally series, the Classic Phantasy Star series, Guardian Heroes, Outrun 2, including SP, and last place in 30th is Wing War, which I would love to see. I remember playing Wing War. If you've never played that one, it was one of the old flat-shaded polygonal games, and it was like a two-player versus flight sim. Like, you would start with like a back view of your plane, and you would be shooting at this other plane that's dodging your bullets, and then at a certain point you would switch, and you'd get sort of a more top-down-ish view while you tried to avoid the bullets from the other plane, and you'd go back and forth trying to deplete each other's life. Wing War was actually really fun to play, and it's never gotten a home port, so I'd actually like that. But overall, that is a very good list, but what Sega has decided on, or I guess was planning ahead of time, is Virtua Racing. They are porting Virtua Racing Arcade Perfect to your Nintendo Switch, which a lot of people are probably going to go, what in the heck is the point of that? But, seems good to me. Now, personally, I'd like Virtua Racing ported to the PSVR. I mean that very seriously. I'm kind of disappointed at the lack of flat-shaded games in VR, because when I think VR, I think flat shading, and I'd love to see some old flat-shaded games running in VR, but we'll see what I can get working. There may be solutions for that on the PC. I will be getting PC VR very soon. I'm very excited about that. So yeah, maybe we'll see Jet Set Radio on Switch. I guess the really tricky one would be getting anything beyond the first game, because the second game was, I think Microsoft might have funded the second game. Not 100% sure. Now, Jet Set Radio Future. So, that is a thing. Let's see what else we've got in news. New Pokemon was revealed through Pokemon Go named Meltan, which will also be in Pokemon Let's Go. That's the weird metal thing with a bolt on top that has a little dot inside of it. When you run into it, it winds up just being a Ditto copying it. But yes, that has been very interesting. Oh, that's what I forgot. Should have put this on the anime in theaters list. Apparently, the original 1980s animated Transformers movie will be in theaters September 27th at 7 p.m. It is also a Fathom event thing, like most of the anime in theaters. So if you ever wanted to see the Transformers movie in theaters again, that's your opportunity. I'd love to go, but I probably can't make it. But yeah, that is good times. Moving on, the Neo Geo Mini has been shipped out to reviewers, and apparently the actual little base unit is almost perfect. Like the mini joystick and the buttons on it feel pretty darn good, and the screen is the perfect resolution for the games. Unfortunately, as I have found out thanks to the review from Ashens, hooking the Neo Geo Mini up to the TV is a disaster. For some reason, the HDMI output turns out really, really blurry, and there's no way to fix that. And the controllers you plug into the system are terrible, that you have to buy separately. And they're terrible, and you can't really use any other controllers. Now, I don't know if SNK can fix the video output. I don't think it's too bad, but they definitely need to release new controllers, because everyone hates the Neo Geo Mini controllers. Because no, they do not use the classic Neo Geo clicky sticks. They are apparently very loose with a lot of travel, making it actually hard to walk just left and right, because you'll wind up accidentally jumping or crouching. And that's no good. Let's see, we'll get to all the studios that shut down later, because apparently it's time for every studio to shut down. Quite unfortunate. You know what? Speaking of Sega, though, and Virtua, Space Channel 5 VR kinda funky news flash. We've gotten more information about it. It is using new graphics, and it's even introducing new characters, Lou and Key, who are twins that will represent the player. They are rookie reporters, meaning the game is actually going to have a storyline. It's not exactly going to be Space Channel 5 Part 3, but it'll be close enough. And so, yeah, we're getting a new Space Channel 5 in VR. Didn't see that coming. I'm excited to give that a spin. Weirdly, though, and maybe this is just because it's an early version, but Apollo Smile is not voicing Ulala this time, which normally wouldn't be a thing I complain about, except that was like her one good role. Every other time she's dubbed in anime, it's been an utter dumpster fire, but she did a really good job as Ulala, and hearing anyone except the Japanese voice or Apollo Smile voicing her sounds really weird. The new voice just isn't good for Ulala, but I can put up with it. Moving on, Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition definitely does have the new content we missed out on from the PS3 release that was Japan only, and there is footage now of the Definitive Edition running on Switch. Could it be getting a Switch port? Will the Switch port come to the US? It's actually a really good question. Actually, let me check something. Tales of Vesperia Definitive. Yeah, I need to see, is it coming to PS4 in the US? Where do we see? Release. Okay, it is coming to PS4 in the US. I know that sounds like a weird thing to worry about, but the reason we didn't get the PS3 release was because Microsoft, I think, funded some of Tales of Vesperia, and in exchange, they wanted exclusivity on it, which I guess Namco found a loophole allowing them to release an even better version on PS4 in Japan, but in America, they weren't allowed to use that loophole, and so it was 360 only in America. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. Whew. So yeah, that is certainly a thing. Already mentioned Android 17 is coming to Dragon Ball FighterZ this week, so that's a thing. Which, for the record, that actually wraps up all the characters we knew were coming to Dragon Ball FighterZ. And of course also raises the question, how are these characters being handled on the Switch version that comes out like the day after Android 17 comes out? Very good questions. Also, moving on, Earth Defense Force 5 finally has a US release date, December 11th, and it's full price digital only. Okay, so I'm not comfortable buying games at full price digital only. I don't like that. I will make an exception for Earth Defense Force, which is a game most people would be uncomfortable paying full price for, even boxed. See, Earth Defense Force, if you're unfamiliar, it started as a budget title back on PS2, and it's always had a kind of budget flair to it. It's very jank in a lot of ways, frequently has frame rate problems and hiccups, but the games are incredibly fun. If you've never played Earth Defense Force, you, in the newest ones, you pick from 4 different classes, you're dropped into a city, giant ants, giant spiders, giant robots, tripods, Godzilla, and all manner of aliens are thrown at you in a fully destructible city. Take them out. There's generally over 50 missions, usually in the 80 to 100 missions, with multiple difficulty levels. The higher the difficulty level, the better the loot you get, because there's over 100 guns to collect for each class, and the newest ones not only feature 2-player split screen offline, but 4-player co-op online as well. Earth Defense Force 4 was amazing, as was its expansion, Earth Defense Force 4.1. Some people are calling this Earth Defense Force 4.9 because it really looks like they're just taking Earth Defense Force 4 and expanding it further. But I'm fine with that as long as they add a lot of stuff, which it looks like they have. I'm very excited to play Earth Defense Force 5. But considering what it is, coupled with considering the price tag, it's quite unfortunate. They're very much just banking on us hardcore fans picking it up, which I will. But I really, really don't like the fact that it's digital only. I want a physical hard copy of this. And yeah, and there's also a special edition, a digital special edition that comes with some of the DLC packs. Which, okay, that's all fine and dandy. I'm opposed to digital special editions as well. But this is where things get interesting. Okay, so we know it's going to have some of the DLC packs, but I don't see the Starship Troopers DLC pack. Because in Japan, they did release a Starship Troopers Earth Defense Force crossover DLC pack, and I'm really hoping that doesn't get caught up in legal BS preventing it from coming to America. Because I'd be kind of interested in that. Kind of very interested in that. Well. Either way, Earth Defense Force 5, I can't wait, but I'm very disappointed that they're releasing it in this way. Moving on, here's a weird one. Cotton has been revealed for Umihara Kawase Fresh. Umihara Kawase is a grappling hook-based platformer that dates all the way back to the Super Nintendo. They made there was a Super Nintendo one, they made a PS1 release, and the series went dormant for a really long time, and then all of a sudden now they're like, oh, we're bringing back Umihara Kawase, and they're making a bunch of Umihara Kawase games. She showed up in Blade Strangers as a playable fighter, and now Umihara Kawase Fresh is actually taking the formula and applying it to sort of a weird Metroidvania survival mechanic, and at some point, you meet Cotton and can play as her. For those unfamiliar, Cotton is the protagonist of a series of side-scrolling shoot-em-ups called, well, Cotton, Fantastic Nights, Dream, and so on. There was the original Cotton, 100% Cotton, Cotton 2, Cotton Boomerang, Panorama Cotton, and Rainbow Cotton, and then a pachinko game. I love these games, especially Panorama Cotton. She's a witch with red hair. She rides on a broom. She abuses fairies. They are talking about maybe her using fairies as grappling hooks somehow. They want her throwing fairies because she is so well known for her fairy abuse. She also has a new outfit for this game. Very nice, very stylish. But yeah, fancy seeing you here, Cotton. What are you doing here? Makes me happy. I like the Cotton series, but still, it's weird to see Cotton show up in Umihara Kawase. And we have a leak, supposedly, about the new Samurai Showdown and upcoming SNK Heroines characters. Supposedly, people are saying that Shiki and Rimururu will be in the new Samurai Showdown. Now, these are simultaneously surprising and not surprising. On one hand, Shiki and Rimururu are two of the most popular, well-known Samurai Showdown characters. But Shiki originated from Samurai Showdown 64 and never appeared in a 2D Samurai Showdown. Well, a 2D mainline Samurai Showdown. And I guess that kind of still applies. But she has appeared in 2D because she was in SNK vs. Capcom Chaos, as well as a number of Neo Geo Pocket Color games, namely the Samurai Showdowns on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, as well as SNK Gals Fighter back on Neo Geo Pocket Color. So it's good to see her there. Rimururu, also, very popular character, but what's interesting is everyone thought that the new Samurai Showdown was going to be a reboot. It's going to be a remake of the first Samurai Showdown, right? All the characters they're showing are from the first Samurai Showdown, except for Genjuro, who people forget wasn't in the first game. Genjuro is kind of the Ken to Haomaru's Ryu, but he wasn't introduced until Samurai Showdown 2. Well, with these new characters, we know that it's not just a remake of Samurai Showdown 1, it will probably be a greatest hits. So, of course, I'm pulling for Cham Cham. Because I still think it's absurd that Cham Cham is one of the most popular Samurai Showdown characters, and yet she's only in 2 and 6 and, like, the PS1 port of 4 and the RPG. She shows up in, like, the most random ways, because she's incredibly popular, but she just doesn't factor into the main series most of the time. Drives me nuts. So I'm pulling for Cham Cham. Go Cham Cham! But as for SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy, which you know is a game I'm pulling for, I'm still loving that game. On that note, the new character Thief Arthur came out. I'll tell you more about her after the break, but they are saying that, yes, the new character that they teased is in fact Skullo Lady, basically a female version of Skullomania, but she's actually existed in official artwork for a little bit. And Jean from World Heroes, which kind of makes sense for SNK Heroines, because SNK now owns ADK. They own the character, but they're not really going to make a new World Heroes. So what do we do with the character? Put her in SNK Heroines. It'll be good to see her there, because it's good to see any new characters in SNK Heroines. I still want Alice, though. Anyway, moving on. Here is time to take a break. Here is Made for Now by Janet Jackson featuring Daddy Yankee here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you for... That was So Far Away by Martin Garrix and David Guetta featuring Jay here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell. Welcome back to the show. Wow, I regret not paying attention to the fact that Creed came out last night. Apparently, people who got on, like actually pre-ordered the game and hopped on at midnight, wound up fighting against some of the developers. I did not know that the PvP would be ready. For those of you unfamiliar, I think I mentioned this a couple times, Creed is a VR boxing game for PlayStation VR as well as PC VR, made by Survios, the people who made Sprint Vector and Raw Data, and Electronauts. They actually have a very good track record for VR games right now, except for the fact that they still don't have the multiplayer in Raw Data. But, yeah, it's based on the Rocky movie spin-off Creed, and yeah, it's a VR boxing game, and they were originally... It was going to just be single player, and then they said, oh, hey, we're patching in PvP, and oh, hey, we have PvP at launch, and they were able to box against the devs. This has me very excited. I thought I'd have to wait for this, but apparently not, so I'm going to try my best to hop on that when I get back home. On that note, I realized I never talked about last week's games, because last week I was very excited. There were a bunch of PlayStation VR releases, but they were very strange, namely Trickster VR and Unearthing Mars 2. Well, Trickster VR was definitely a disappointment. There is no way to turn and run at the same time. The smooth turning is a bit slow. But more than that, the enemies are really dumb. The combat is incredibly basic. I mean, you swing your sword and then it goes in slow motion as it chops through the enemy. They don't really react to your hits very well. It's the kind of game that if it was a very early release, it would have scratched an itch. But now, you know, I can play Skyrim VR, which provides like the same level of combat, but like an actually big fancy world. And I can play, oh geez, what's that game called? The zombie game, Killing Floor VR, which right now has the best bladed melee combat on the PlayStation VR. Best melee combat, really, on PSVR. However, Creed might be able to knock it off its pedestal. I really look forward to playing that. But we shall see. See, I've been not paying attention because I just ordered a big fancy new computer and an Oculus Rift. After much deliberation between the Rift and the Vive, it sounds like the Rift will be better for my purposes, because I have a kind of small play space, and the Oculus touch controllers are required for some of the games I want to play, and most games are both Vive and Rift, and it looks really promising. I'm hoping to get that all set up this week. So I've been working hard at cleaning up the game room, getting that all set up, and I hope to have a stream going for that. I'll probably be Friday. If I manage to get the area cleaned up, then I want to do a stream tonight for to give the PlayStation VR like one last hurrah before it might be blown away by PC VR. We will find out. You know what? It could stand a good chance. It'll be interesting to see because I do want to compare the two. And I'm starting to realize what the deal is with PC VR, because one of the annoying things with PlayStation VR is it's like it always takes a year for anything to get from PC to PS VR. You know, I'm sitting here waiting on Sirento. Everyone's telling me Sirento's this amazing game. It's finally coming out, like, I think in January it'll be coming to PSVR. But then I look at it on Steam and I realize, wait a second, it's listed as being in beta. It's listed as being early access. That was the thing. Practically every VR game that comes out on PC is early access because they know people want to get their hands on those games ASAP. They need a return on investment ASAP. And on top of that, VR games very, very, very much need public testing because every single person reacts to a VR headset in a different way. No matter what brilliant control scheme, anti-motion sickness scheme you think you have, there is no guarantee that will actually work in the real world. It is not uncommon for a game to come out and be like, oh, we've put in all these anti-motion sickness features, and then for everyone to pick it up and go, wow, these are garbage and utterly ruin your game. Please give us an option to remove them. And then they patch in the option to remove them. Sure would have been nice if Doom VFR had a release like that, because still waiting on a patch for the PSVR version to not be stupid. Anyway. So, yes, I'm very excited to finally get my hands on the wonderful world of PC VR and have a computer that might actually help me video edit. If you've never tried video editing, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Video editing takes more power than PC gaming does. Like, most people think that PC gaming, that's pushing your computer to its limit. No, video editing is actually worse. And the higher the video quality, the harder it is. Because, like, if you want to do something basic, incredibly basic, like, put some text over the screen, and then, watch the video with the text overlaid on top of it, well, now it's trying to render every single frame at full resolution in real time, which I swear there has to be a more streamlined way of doing that by, like, not rendering each frame and instead just playing the video behind an overlay and then rendering the frames when you actually click to make the video. But no, of course, we gotta render every frame, because that's one of the other problems that, gotta be honest, as someone who used Pinnacle Studio, you want Adobe. There aren't a lot of really good options for video editing, and Adobe their stuff can be a little bit bloated sometimes, and yeah, it can be a pain in the butt. The act of adding text on screen has crashed my copy of Adobe Premiere so many times, and you wouldn't think it would, but that is the single most challenging thing you can ask of your computer, is to put text over a video in a video editing program. It's perfectly fine when it's, real-time subtitle in a MKV file, because you're watching anime. Whatever, I need to move on from this. So, let's talk studio. I just noticed the time. We will have to wait on that. Because there are a lot of words to be said about all the studios closing. I wanna give them some time. So let's hit a few other weird bits of information before we talk about the studio closures. Let's see. First of all, Imagineer does what Nintendo don't. This is one of the problems with being Nintendo, is that sometimes you have too many IPs and not enough people to make them. So Imagineer is making Little Friends, Dogs and Cats, and Fitness Boxing for Switch. Little Friends, Dogs and Cats literally looks like not Nintendogs and not Cats. And Fitness Boxing looks like Wii Fit for Switch. They are, like, almost flagrantly ripping it off. But if Nintendo won't do it, someone will. And let's see, what else do we have? Devil May Cry 5 may have multiplayer. A recent listing, I forget where it was, stated that the game had some form of online multiplayer. But then they removed that information, and Capcom supposedly deconfirmed it, but there's still things that are looking like it might have some kind of 3-player co-op online mode. It's all up in the air. Anyway, we've got that new Kill la Kill game coming out, and turns out that Satsuki is going to have a story mode in it. So that's cool for all the Satsuki fans. Street Fighter V is finally hitting arcades next year. Took you long enough. And also, yay! Romancing Saga 3 is getting a remake as well as a sequel called Romancing Saga Re-Universe, and they're on iPhone and Android. But, of course, as we saw with Romancing Saga 2, the iPhone Android versions a year later would see themselves ported to Switch and PS4 and Xbox One and the like. Hopefully they will port them faster, because I would love to play Romancing Saga 3. I would love to play Romancing Saga Re-Universe. I don't intend to play them on iPhone and Android. My Android tablet is effectively FUBAR. I mean, it works, but I'm not adding anything else to it. It is a thing. Let's see. Oh! This is some very good news. Grandia 1's HD remaster is actually sounding promising. For those unfamiliar, Grandia 1 was originally released on Sega Saturn and ported to PS1. We only got the PS1 version, and people always complain because the Saturn version was better. But of course, we never got the Saturn version because that's just the way things are. And recently, Grandia 2 got an HD re-release. Then they announced that Grandia 2, as well as Grandia 1, are coming to Switch. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but are you just going to straight port the PS1 game? Or are you going to actually port the superior Saturn version? Which the superior Saturn version didn't look that superior, but superior enough that if you were like, oh, this is the definitive HD remaster, people might be disappointed if it was the PS1 version instead of the Sega Saturn version. And let's see, I'm trying to bring it up. Here it is. Grandia 1 and 2 HD remastered. So, Grandia 1 is going to have enhanced details to UI, sprites, and texture art with 2x to 4x upscaling. Original cinematic videos receive visual enhancements. So they're going to do their best to get the old anime cutscenes running in high res. Widescreen support and customizable resolutions for PC. Addition of MSAA bloom, normal mapping, and blur effects. So it sounds like it might kind of be getting the Octopath Traveler treatment. Steam cards and achievements, of course. Japanese audio and subtitles, English audio and subtitles. Grandia 1 doesn't exactly have the best dub. Big surprise. It was dubbed in the 90s. Language support, English and Japanese. Digitally converted game manual, utilizing PS1 and Saturn source code, gamepad, and keyboard support with remappable controls. It's coming to both Switch and PC. But this makes me very happy, because some people actually do prefer Grandia 1 to Grandia 2. I myself have barely played Grandia 1. And I was worried that they were going to do a lazy job and just, oh, here's the PS1 game, we're going to slap it on Switch. Done. No. Sounds like they're actually going to put in the effort to actually do an HD version of Grandia 1, which I appreciate. And once it gets the thumbs up from fans, because I am going to be the guy who waits for that, but once it gets the thumbs up from fans, I will likely pick this up to finally experience Grandia 1, because it's not like I can play the Saturn version in English. And fine, well, this will hopefully be the best version. I'm very excited to play this. And then Grandia 2 uses the Anniversary Edition source code, which was based on the Dreamcast source code, which is good because the PS2 version of Grandia 2 sucked. If you don't, For those of you, probably a lot of you are unfamiliar with this, when Grandia 2 was originally a Dreamcast game, and when they finally ported it to PS2, a lot of the cutscenes were actually low-quality recordings of the Dreamcast version of the game. It was really bad. The Dreamcast version was vastly superior. And Japanese subtitles added for Switch version. Nice. I wonder if that has a Japanese voice option. Voice acting was much better in Grandia 2, though. But yeah, Grandia 1 and 2 HD, coming to Switch. Good calls. I'm happy about that. Anyway, I do believe it's time to kick you back to the music. So here is Borderline by Ariana Grande featuring Missy Elliott here on 89.5 FM KCFV, The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for more GameBabble. That was by Jade Bird here on 89.5 FM KCFV, The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Del, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. But if you're tuning in late, you missed the show, don't worry. Hit up YouTube, type in GameBabble Live Archive, and you will find an archive of well over 60 episodes of GameBabble Live that you can listen to on YouTube, or hit up the Dropbox link in the description to download the MP3s and enjoy on the go, or however. They are the raw MP3 files. Do what you want with them. Anyway, welcome back to the show. So, as I mentioned, it's been an interesting time, as between the last show and this one, 2 different video game companies have gone out of business. One of them is Capcom Vancouver, makers of Dead Rising 2 and Off the Record and Beyond. So basically, after Shinji Mikami and the original Dead Rising team left Capcom, Capcom Vancouver pretty much took over the series, and they did the Off the Record DLC. They did Dead Rising 3, as well as Dead Rising 4, which I think a lot of people forgot about. That's pretty much all they made was Dead Rising games, and that probably explains a lot. Like I said, you probably forgot about Dead Rising 4. Because Dead Rising 4 that was the one that was supposed to be the glorious return of Frank West for reals this time, except they kind of screwed it up, and in a lot of ways it was inferior to Dead Rising 1. And they didn't really get the character beyond I've covered wars, you know. And Dead Rising 4 was a massive, massive flop. And that was like 2 years ago, so I think it's really weird that they waited until now to close them. I hate to say it like that, too, because it's never nice when people go out of business, but it's one of those I completely understand why they went out of business. People were not impressed by Dead Rising. I mean, I love Dead Rising 1, but I didn't even like Dead Rising 2. Like, Dead Rising 1 was something really special, and I just felt the series kind of lost its flavor after that. I mean, I guess there was a little bit of good for Dead Rising 2, but part of what made Dead Rising 1 kind of fun was the fact that it was this really awkward commentary about the American food industry made by Japanese guys. It was very much a this is the dark side of America as viewed by Japan. So you get these really weird, over-the-top, warped versions of an attempt at political commentary that kind of fell flat on its face. I know that probably sounds really weird if you haven't seen the end game of Dead Rising 1, but when you find out why the zombie epidemic happened was because of beef, like literal beef, it involves cows and, like, bees, it's weird. It's really weird when you find out what was actually going on with the zombie outbreak in Dead Rising. And that was a large part of what made it so fun. And the games after that got too serious, got too normal. Yeah, you could do goofy things, but they lacked the madness of Dead Rising 1. Really loved Dead Rising 1, even though it had a terrible control scheme. So yeah, Capcom Vancouver's out of business. It's a shame they lost their jobs. And you know what? No, it's also a shame that Capcom didn't just put them on different projects, too. Maybe there's something they could have done that would have actually been successful. But no, just Dead Rising. Okay. But the other one, the big one that a lot of people are talking about, Telltale Games is out of business. And it has sent ripples through the industry because, number one, Telltale Games had a lot of games in development. In fact, The Walking Dead, the Telltale series, the final season, episode 2, just comes out today. And they had other things in development. They were going to do Wolf Among Us 2. They had other plans. But right now, they have fired over 250, I think it's 255 employees, only keeping around enough to fulfill their obligations because they're involved with something on Netflix involving Minecraft Story Mode, and then they're closing down. These people have been fired with no severance pay, and they can't apply for unemployment. So they got very much screwed over, and this is sadly a common thing in the video game industry. The video game industry is actually this is the worst part. The video game industry is actually a very bad industry to work in. You don't realize it, but there are a lot of greedy higher-ups that take advantage of this industry. I don't even know the full story of it. But there is a weird amount of skullduggery in the video game industry. A lot of employees are drastically underpaid for the kind of work that they do. Shoot, one of my friends went to college to learn how to program video games, and then he realized, wait a second, I would make way more money and have way less stress if I just programmed for anything other than video games. Because programmers are in high demand. And when you're making like a normal program, you don't have that same kind of ludicrous crunch time. You know, it's what was one of the things he was working on was like an anonymous bullying reporting system for schools that kids could use. He was working on something like that, and there's no like hard deadline crunch time. We got to get this out for the Christmas rush, kind of BS. And that's one of the things that really hurts game developers, where they wind up spending multiple nights literally sleeping in the office, desperately trying to get the game out the door. On top of the fact that video game programmers are paid less than other programmers, and frequently, you know, they don't get some of these common freaking courtesies. This is why a lot of people are quitting and going indie, working for themselves, because game development shouldn't be this stressful and should be more profitable. So, yeah, and that is one of the problems of just the gaming industry right now as a whole, and I do kind of hope it collapses. Like, video games are never going to go away, but the AAA industry, or even whatever the heck Telltale was, kind of needs to collapse and rebuild itself. Because there's a lot of greed and avarice going on all over the place. Lots of things where people get a free lunch in the video game industry. Lots of just BS. But it also isn't a surprise that Telltale went out of business. And it's kind of amazing, too, because when the original Telltale Walking Dead series came out, it was declared Game of the Year, one of the best games of all time. A lot of people really loved it because it brought back the point-and-click adventure and it did a lot of things right. A lot of people looked at it and said, this is a David Cage game done right. David Cage could learn a lot from this. But it says a lot when Detroit Become Human comes out, and a lot of people look at it and say Telltale Games could learn a lot from Detroit Become Human. The tables have turned. And that is exactly what's wrong with it. Telltale Games wound up doing this thing where they just got a lot of different IPs and developed these little point-and-click adventure games with them that were episodic, and it was super cool at first, but the wheels on the wagon began to fall off because they never updated their incredibly dated engine, causing the games to honestly look bad and run poorly, and every single game looked more and more dated and amateurish than the last. The original Walking Dead was fine because it was this low-budget downloadable, and we were willing to cut it some slack because it's telling this amazing story. But as the writing gets worse, as the choices matter less, and as the games get more and more dated, on top of the fact that they just kept making more games, okay, fine, when all they're doing are a couple little point-and-click adventure games, Telltale Games is super cool. But when they have like 5 different Telltale game series in development all coming out, they lose that indie charm. You're not the little company that could anymore. You're working on all these big budget projects, and you have over 255 employees that you've now fired. So you're not a little company anymore. Get a better engine. Update your gameplay. Do new things with it, which other companies are. A lot of game companies have looked at Telltale Games and said, how can we do this? How can we evolve this? How can we try to be better than Telltale Games? Telltale didn't do that. They just said, we're just gonna keep making these games. And it kind of blew up in their face. But the problem is that even though they knew this was gonna happen, they didn't do enough to really secure their position. They bit off more than they could chew. They flew too close to the sun. They didn't update themselves. And now, so many employees have famously gotten screwed over. And that is such a shame. And come to think of it, a couple weeks back, I think I heard that the developers of WildStar, that MMORPG went out, I believe they closed down. They're closing down WildStar. The people who made it, Carbine Studios, are out of business. I know Blizzard actually I remember Blizzard openly offered a hand to them and said, hey, if any of you guys want to come work at Blizzard, send us some resumes, we'll probably let you in. Because they felt bad that all these people were getting laid off. So that's another, big company with a lot of game companies going under. None of the, super huge ones, but a lot of these smaller studios are, the small, medium-sized studios are closing down, and that is a darn shame, and it does suck that so many of these people are getting screwed over. I wish them the best of luck. Not really anything I can do. But this, of course, raises the other big question. So, okay, Telltale Games is out of business, so that means that The Walking Dead, the final season, is over, except, wait a second, I bought a season pass. I didn't, but theoretically, they sold season passes for this, and the company that makes it is out of business. Well, Telltale Games has said that they are trying to find a way to bring episodes 3 and 4 to the consumer in some way. And this is where things get really awkward, because it's like, okay, fine, how are you going to do that? And a number of people are saying, that's all fine and dandy, but you should focus on paying your employees properly first. You should focus on taking care of your employees and respecting their humanity. Something, on one hand, I completely agree with. On the other hand, releasing a season pass and having people already pay for your games and then saying, oh, we're not making half of the games that you just paid for, that's a little bit of a problem. You see, that's where we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I completely agree that they need to respect the humanity of their former employees, but at the same time, I also agree that they need to respect the fact that their customers paid them, give them what you owe them. And that's what they mean when they say, finishing up their obligations. They're apparently talking with other companies to handle the last 2 episodes for them. It's a very awkward situation. They're bankrupt. They're done. But people paid them money for 2 games that don't exist yet. Yeah. A little bit of a problem there. And certainly, I can't blame people, as much as people are saying, we could have seen Telltale Games going out of business, at the same time, you wouldn't have expected it because they had so many games coming out. Again, episode 2 of The Walking Dead Telltale series final season just comes out today. And the company's bankrupt. So, if you looked at the game release list and what they had coming, you would think that Telltale Games was in a stable position because they had so much coming out. And now it's just gone. It's a very awkward, strange, and unfortunate situation for everyone involved. You know, the customers, the employees. This whole thing is a horrible and fascinating debacle. So that's that. Moving right along. Well, let's talk about something good real quick like. So, Nintendo Switch's online just started, and it is less than stellar. What with the terrible cloud saving, I kind of had a breakdown about that last week, but much to our surprise, Nintendo stealth added game sharing and didn't tell anyone. Basically, if you log into your account on someone else's Switch, you can play your downloaded Switch games. And then they can play them too until you start playing them, and then they lose access to them, which is the way like the PS4 and Xbox One also handle game sharing. It's interesting they didn't actually advertise that. And on that note, that reminds me, I need to do a follow-up on the Capcom Beat-em-up collection, because as you might recall, last week, I picked that up on my Switch and was playing it during the show, and I was criticizing the resolution of the screen when I was playing in portable mode. Well, number one, I have very good news about Capcom Beat-em-up collection. When you play it in docked mode, the resolution is about correct. It does not look as terrible as it does on the little screen. I think it might still be a little bit stretched, but that might actually just be my TV being funky. But yeah, like, the grid patterns all look right. It doesn't look as bad as it does when you're playing in portable mode, and that's fine. The stretching isn't too bad when you're playing on the tiny portable screen. It's the fact that it would be if you were playing on a TV and it looked that way, it would be really bad. But no, the resolution is right on the screen, and also, I can confirm, the online is actually good, kind of. This is something I really want to make a point about. Because Jim Sterling, of course, did a big old video showing how terrible the online play was on the Capcom Beat-em-up collection. And that's what the whole video was about. And let me tell you, reading the comments of that was the most frustrating thing ever, because many people thought that that was just how the games ran normally. They were like, but do they run fine offline? Or, LOL, Switch having so much trouble emulating these old games. It's like, no, they run fine offline. This is just the netcode. People not knowing the difference between netcode hitches and games running poorly. That drove me completely up the wall. But here's the thing. The problem with the netcode is that you need to go into options, go to network, and increase the frame delay. The more you increase the frame delay, the more delay there will be on your controls, but the smoother the online will be. So just give yourself a little more frame delay, and the online will work just fine. Kind of. Because unfortunately, the more people who haven't turned up their frame delay, the worse the online is going to do. So it has GGPO, some of the best netcode ever. But the problem with the netcode, the problem with the online play in Capcom Beat-em-up collection isn't actually the netcode, it's the default settings. Capcom could actually fix this by releasing a patch that makes the default setting like 3 frames of delay instead of 2. They could fix the online play just by forcibly changing everyone's default setting. Any lag you are experiencing when playing Capcom Beat-em-up collection online is due to this setting. It is actually good netcode. But because the default setting is bad, a bunch of people think that the online play is bad, when in fact the online play is actually very good. And this is further frustrating because, of course, people are snubbing the Capcom Beat-em-up collection because it doesn't have Aliens vs. Predator, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, or The Punisher. And it's like, well, no kidding, it doesn't! Those are licensed games, genius! What are they supposed to do? If they got the license, and each one is a different license. So if they got the license, number one, it would increase the cost of the collection drastically. And number two, the idea of, like, it would be hard to actually get all those licenses. Who owns the license to Cadillacs and Dinosaurs now, right? let alone trying to go through the debacle of Aliens vs. Predator. And Capcom knows people want Aliens vs. Predator. They are well aware of this fact. But getting the license is very hard and expensive, and if they did that, they would probably release the game individually for the same price as the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection. I am going to say, do not snub this collection just because it doesn't have the licensed games. Because Armored Warriors and Battle Circuit are more than enough to justify the purchase of this collection. Also, the ability to play the Japanese version of Warriors of Fate. Apparently, the Japanese version not only has blood in it, but also like more weapons and moves and things. It is just generally better. So, yeah, the ability to switch between English and Japanese, very good call. And again, as Final Fight, as King of Dragons, as Knights of the Round. It's 7 freaking beat-em-ups for a ludicrously low price. And again, Battle Circuit. If you've never played Battle Circuit and you like beat-em-ups, you need to play Battle Circuit. Battle Circuit is really good. It was Capcom's last traditional 2D beat-em-up. It was basically Capcom's last beat-em-up, and it didn't get released in US arcades. It was Japan and Europe only. And this was in 1997 when polygons were in high demand, so a lot of people weren't even really seeing this beat-em-up. A lot of people didn't care about beat-em-ups. It very much flew under a lot of people's radars, and you need to try it. It could arguably be considered better than Aliens vs. Predator, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, and The Punisher. It's a bit arguable because each one is different. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses. But Battle Circuit has 5 different playable characters, 4-player simultaneous play, and it has a sizable moveset, because the whole shtick behind it is as you beat up enemies, they drop coins in between every level. You spend coins to get more moves, and thus, it's one of the few games that actually tells you outright to your face, here are your special moves, here's how you do them. Hold A to charge up your projectile move, down up A to do your anti-air. Once you buy this power-up, a running jump A attack will cause you to do this flaming dive kick thing. And it's fantastic. On top of the fact that you can, like, give your team buffs by doing your A plus B attack in midair. Tons of good stuff. Very good game. Very strange game. Highly recommended. Anyway, I do believe we need to take a break now. So, and then we will be wrapping up the show. So, here is Real by Of Mice and Men here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind, and stay tuned for just a little more GameBabble. That was Good Time by Charlie Wilson here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. So we are indeed wrapping up the show. But if you're just tuning in now, don't worry. You can hit up YouTube, type in GameBabble Live Archive, and you will run face first into over 60 episodes of me rambling about video games. And don't worry, I will try to get today's episode up as fast as I can. Anyway, though, I would like to welcome you back to the show. Where do we begin? How about, here's some good news, at least on my front. I was just thinking about the good old One-Chanbara series, and turns out they have a new one in development, kind of. One-Chanbara Origins is set to be a remake of One-Chanbara 1 and 2, featuring new, slightly cel-shaded-y looking graphics and the more recent character designs. In case you don't remember, way back in One-Chanbara 1 and 2, the main character, Aya, had short black hair. But now she has medium-length, wavy brown hair as of One-Chanbara Vortex back on 360. With the release of this, the only entry in the One-Chanbara series we will be missing is One-Chanbara Z Kagura, which was the 5th entry in the series and the one just before Z2 Chaos. Not like anyone cares. Except me. I'm just happy because new One-Chanbara. And I'm fine with them remaking the first one. Although I would have actually preferred a new one because I really like Kagura, who was just introduced. But regardless, good to hear we have a new One-Chanbara in the works. I don't think they've said what system it's on. I have a weird feeling it'll be on Switch. I don't know why. Speaking of the Switch, Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet and Hollow Realization are both coming to Switch as complete editions. Also, there is a new DLC expansion for Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet, featuring a snowy area and the appearance of Sachi, who apparently has been popping up in the games, despite, being dead. That's weird. Apparently that's a thing. Moving on. Jeez, what else do we have here? Resonance of Fate is getting a 4K HD release coming to PS4 and PC. Because the heck with making new games, let's just take everything from the past 2 console generations and re-release it. This is kind of a running theme. Like, I have actually joked that I don't honestly think this console generation exists. This is the rerun generation. This is literally us looking to the past and going, is there anything people love, and re-releasing it. In a weird way, I understand it. Because video games these days are so big and expensive and take so long to produce that if all you did was focus on making your new game, you'd go like 3 to 5 years without releasing anything, and that would piss off your shareholders. So you have to do something. You have to throw something out there. So it's like, take something old, clean it up, throw it out there, see what happens. Certainly why Crystal Chronicles is happening. Shoot, it just dawned on me. Square Enix has been like re-releasing every Final Fantasy they could. They re-released Final Fantasy X and X-2 like twice back to back, and now they're re-releasing it again on Switch. And then, they're releasing all these remasters of older Final Fantasies. They re-released all these Kingdom Hearts, and then they're like, shoot, what other PS2 game do we have? Oh, we can re-release Final Fantasy XII. Finally, that's what I wanted, but it took them forever to do that because it wasn't the top priority, and now it's like, well, we've run out of PS2 Final Fantasies, and there's only so much we can do with PS1 Final Fantasies. Guess it's time to re-release Crystal Chronicles, which I'm still concerned about if it's going to have local co-op. There is some hope for it. Like, apparently one website mentioned it having local co-op, but then it disappeared, so that's giving us some concerns. But it does turn out there's a mini-map in the corner of the screen, which was one of the things you saw on your GBA. On top of that, they're adding in a new timing feature. See, in Crystal Chronicles, one of the main things you did was you combined your charge attacks. Like, if you tried to do a charge attack and then one of your teammates tried to cast fire in the same spot, like they put their cursor over yours, instead of you doing the attack immediately, it would do sort of this brief ding, allowing your partner to fire off their fire spell and turn your charge attack into a flaming charge attack. This was a major mechanic. You could also combine 2 fire spells to make a fire 2, 3 fire spells to make a fire 3. But getting the timing right was really tricky. Well, now a little timing clock is going to pop up to help you get the timing right. This makes me incredibly happy because it means that they are putting an effort to enhance and add new stuff to Crystal Chronicles, even if it is just some minor quality of life tweaks. And that means that local co-op is plausible. Again, I'm still concerned that they won't do this, and if they don't do it, I will be very pissed. Unfortunately, I'll still pick the game up because Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is actually one of my favorite Final Fantasies. I love the game, but I really, really, really want local co-op. Says the guy who actually went out and bought a GBA once because one of his friends forgot their GBA. I drove up to GameStop and just bought a used one once because I was like, no, we are playing Crystal Chronicles tonight. Because I love Crystal Chronicles that friggin' much. So that's a thing. Also, Disaster Report. Disaster Report 4 is in development. Disaster Report, of course, being a series about surviving disasters, finding survivors, stuff like that. And they had previously announced that Disaster Report 4 would have some VR implementation. Turns out it's just bonus VR missions. Every time you complete a mission, you might unlock a new bonus VR level that you can play. Yay. That sounds really minor. Always frustrating. Be nice to see more high-quality VR games, but of course the big companies just are not doing it. And last but not least, it's time to talk about Dead or Alive 6 again. So, footage from Tokyo Game. So they announced that Honoka and Marie Rose would be in the game, but in the trailer and in the artwork, they deliberately, avoided really showing too much of Honoka. So people at Tokyo Game Show immediately looked at it, and sure enough, Honoka has been unchanged since DOA 5. She has the same proportions. This is quite striking, because previously, the fine folks at Koei Tecmo had said that they were toning down the sexuality and trying to make the game more realistic and focus on it being cool instead of sexy. Keep in mind, this is Dead or Alive, the series that brought us Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, whose stupid garbage browser game has just introduced a new character that I don't care about because it's, once again, not a real Dead or Alive character. What is this garbage? Some princess. Actually, her name is Fiona, so that's funny. And the Extreme Beach Volleyball Venus Vacation garbage browser game is continuing to add in sexy characters, but the actual Dead or Alive fighting game is trying to tone down the sexuality, only to then announce a Japanese special edition that comes with a Honoka boob mouse pad, a Marie Rose butt mouse pad, and a bedsheet featuring Kasumi and Ayane in stages of undress on it. So it looks like the two heroines of the series are laying in your bed. Huh. And sure enough, Honoka is as Honoka as she's ever been. So a lot of people are like, wow, that was a really fast backpedal. They're really bringing back all the sexualization that sort of defined the Dead or Alive series. They're making it sexy again. Except, just the other day, we got good footage of Honoka versus Kasumi, and while Honoka still looks the way she normally does, Kasumi has been drastically toned down, as has everyone else except Honoka. So now she sticks out like a sore thumb because Honoka is very much the old DOA character, and everyone else is drastically toned down. Okay. And on that note, things have gotten dumber because I forgot about the special button. See, the new feature they have is there is actually a super meter that fills, and once full, you can press special plus towards your opponent to do the big hit that does the zoom in and the face deforms and all that. Or you can press back and special to do a super counter that can counter literally anything. But it's very weak, but you can counter literally everything with it if you have a full super meter. Okay, fine. What I didn't know is the new Fatal Rush mechanic, wherein if you press the special button normally, you can mash out an auto combo that after the first hit cannot be countered. This is important. Because in DOA, if you are on the ground and not in the air, and you are doing a combo, and it's not constantly stunning your opponent, it can be countered. You can break out of combos with a properly timed counter. It's just really hard to get that counter. DOA is all about mix-ups and changing your timing and being unpredictable because you could be countered at any moment. This was why it was very important for Dead or Alive 5 to tone down the strength of counters, because otherwise people hated it because counters were more powerful than hitting your opponent. Now, Dead or Alive 5 really struck the right balance by making counters harder to do and having them do less damage, but hey, they get you out of combos, and it was like, this is the right balance. Dead or Alive 5 really worked. I love Dead or Alive 5, in case you can't tell. Dead or Alive 6, though, has decided it is okay to put in a win button and make the game, which they openly advertise, makes even amateur players look like pros, while simultaneously claiming that Dead or Alive 6 is the most high-level technical entry in the Dead or Alive series, and that all the other entries in the Dead or Alive series are garbage. So says Koei Tecmo. So, words don't mean anything to Yohei Shimbori. I think Dead or Alive 6 has the worst PR I have seen this side of functions. This side of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And we all know how that turned out. I don't think I've ever wanted a game to fail harder than I've wanted Dead or Alive 6 to fail. And if this ends the series, so be it. It was great going out on a high note with Dead or Alive 5. Dead or Alive 5 is fantastic. I love it. And screw Dead or Alive 6. Now, it could surprise me. Like I said, I'm going to get a GameFly account and rent the game. Because Dead or Alive 5 actually surprised me. I was very concerned about it when it was in development. But it came out and it turned out to be a really, really good game. It had some issues, but they fixed it with Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate. Maybe Dead or Alive 6 Ultimate will be an actually good game that knows what the heck it is. But Dead or Alive 6 is continuing to shape up to be a disaster. Not because of not because of how sexy the girls are or aren't, but because of the fact that it is a flagrantly rushed game being developed in less than a year that will be sorely lacking in characters, will not have tag team, and will in general be less of a game than Dead or Alive 5. Why play Dead or Alive 6 when you could play Dead or Alive 5? That was the question I asked with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite as well. Why play Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite when you could play Marvel vs. Capcom 3? And that is the problem that many fighting games need to look in the face and give me an answer to. If you cannot provide a reason for me to play you over the previous entry of your game, then why should I? The only one that's really getting a pass on this is Soul Calibur 6, which has had so many awkward, not so good entries that we'd have to go back to Soul Calibur 1 and 2 to find something that could top Soul Calibur 6. I don't know, maybe Soul Calibur 4 will be better, but it'll certainly be better than Soul Calibur 5. It's hard to be worse than Soul Calibur 5, which was a perfectly fine game except for the fact that it was so inferior to Soul Calibur 4. Again, the problem I am bringing up. Why play Soul Calibur 5 when you could play Soul Calibur 4, which is a better game? Which I know a lot of people would try to disagree with me on, but they're wrong. Actually, I could give an answer because Soul Calibur 4 had garbage netcode and Soul Calibur 5 had good netcode. But Soul Calibur 4 had more characters, more moves, and a better custom character system. It was just lacking in stages and more modes, more content. Man, Soul Calibur 5 sucked. I'm never going to stop being angry about Soul Calibur 5. I actually liked some of the new characters, but I've never seen a ball be dropped so hard. But then again, that's because Namco wasn't giving the game the proper attention. You know, speaking of Soul Calibur 6, there's a beta this week. In fact, let me look that up. I forgot to look up the dates for that. Soul Calibur 6 beta. Because that is going down. Let's see. Soul Calibur 6 is getting a network test this weekend. Double check that. I was interested in Soul Calibur 6. Will be happy to know the game's online beta is scheduled to start on Friday. Namco has revealed that Soul Calibur 6 players on PS4 and Xbox One will be able to jump in and test out the game's online versus mode in the upcoming network test beta. Kicks off Friday, September 28th at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. BST. I don't even know what that is. Network tests will be available until Sunday, September 30th at 8 p.m. Pacific. So, from Friday morning to Sunday evening, we will be able to play Soul Calibur 6 online to test out the netcode. Sounds fantastic. I look forward to giving it a shot. I'm sure I'll have a blast. Everyone will be streaming that. But anyway, I do believe that wraps up our show. Hope to see you on there. I hope to be on there. Oh, one more thing for Soul Calibur 6. So in bad news, it's sounding like there were like 33 character slots, I think. But apparently, due to time constraints, 2 of those characters are going to be cut and resold as DLC, one of which is looking to be Hwang Sung-yo. This is coming from a leak. It might not be true, sounding kind of true, and actually they might not be sold as DLC. They might be patched in as DLC later. It's hard to say. But on the flip side, apparently it has been confirmed that you can unlock a generic Lizard Man by playing through story mode. Not the Lizard Man of the series, Aeon Kalkos, but some random generic Lizard Man can be unlocked for play, which does make us wonder if Aeon Kalkos' style is in the game and they just don't have a unique model for proper Aeon. Maybe, maybe not. We will find out. Also, Inferno, the original boss of Soul Edge, will be in the game. He is an unlockable character, will probably be a mimic character, which I think is kind of disappointing, but that's the way he usually is when he's playable. I'd rather have him just be a reskin of Cervantes with a few different moves, but regardless, Inferno's in the game. That does make me kind of happy. Lizard Man, there is a Lizard Man that can be unlocked. These have all been leaked. Actually, those aren't like rumored leaks. We have screenshots of the things popping up saying these characters are unlocked and various other information because people have like their hands on some early copies of the game and have been fiddling around with it. Regardless, there you go. That's my opinion on Soul Calibur 6. Look forward to playing the beta. Catch y'all there. Thank you for listening to GameBabble Live here on 89.5 FM KCFE, The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. We'll be back next week, hopefully from noon to 3 p.m. And if you missed the show, if you're just tuning in, don't forget that you can just type in GameBabble Live Archive on YouTube, and you can find over 60 episodes of me rambling about video games. I'll try to get this episode up as soon as I can, and you could also hit the Dropbox link in the description to get your hands on the MP3 files and put them on your iPod or whatever. I don't think people use iPods anymore. Whatever, put it on your thing, listen to it on the go. Enjoy. Thank you so much for listening. Next is Never Be the Same by Camila Cabello here on 89.5 FM KCFE The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening.